Okay, so today I'm in Lambourne with Dan and Claire KÜBLER. Thank you very much for letting me come to your magnificent new yard and talk to you today. So you've both got a joint licence. Any particular reason why you decided to both be on there? Is it just the...
We both always wanted to be racehorse trainers. It just so happened we met and got married. If we'd never obviously got married, we'd have gone off on our own ways. And it's a shame that joint licenses didn't exist to begin with, but well done to the VHA for listening. Dan actually campaigned on social media and they caught wind of it. And yeah, they made it happen, which is fantastic. It's just nice to share, ultimately it is shared responsibility, shared decision making. We're in it together like we are with the whole team. But it's nice now for others to be able to do it with friends or family. It's opened up a lot more opportunities for people.
And we're at Sarson Farm. Now, how long have you been at this yard in its current...
So we bought it a while back, but obviously it takes a while to get planning permission because it was a really run-down farmyard. We've knocked it down and got to build it from scratch. So we put a lot of thought into the whole design of it. We moved in officially pretty much about 4 years ago. Yeah.
I think end of 2018, very end of 2018, we sent out our first runner from the yard. We literally moved the horses in about 2 weeks before. It still wasn't finished. It was only half built, but it was big enough to be operational from. First runner was a winner. And then we were sort of finishing it off, and then we had a lockdown, which slowed everything up to be complete. And then once we came out of that, then we kind of actually finished most of the work during that lockdown. And then since then, we've just been trying to, we've been 100% focused on training horses instead of building somewhere for to train them, and obviously we built a lot of staff accommodation. Our team's really, it is a team effort. Everyone puts a lot of work in, and it's all about working together. And we made sure that not only the horses had a really nice place to live, but also the staff.
Okay, we'll talk a bit more about the setup and the staffing and everything in a bit, but just want to talk a bit about your backgrounds. Claire, I've read that you were Cambridge educated, got a degree, specialised in physiology, but then became a forensic accountant. So how did that...
I was just very good at science at school, very logically minded, analytical. So ended up at Cambridge, did natural sciences, and you specialise as you go through your degree. So in the final year, I specialised in physiology. That's all about how the body works, which was fascinating. And I was very lucky. I got to joint publish a paper as well on muscle cells, which was a real challenge, and I loved it. But it certainly wasn't a career for me, though. It's a bit too repetitive. Jumped into accounting. I wasn't really sure. I always wanted to be a racehorse trainer, but how to get there, I wanted to do a couple of other things to understand business and how to run your own place first. So a lot of my friends at university who were going into banking said, go for accounting. So I did auditing to begin with, but ended up moving into forensic accounting, which was really interesting, very varied, got to travel a lot, see lots of different companies, be involved in construction disputes. It was constantly analysing everything that was going on. I loved it, but obviously horses is my real love. So jumped ship, moved full-time into racing. Spent a lot of time with the likes of John Warren, working with him at the sales, which was really interesting, seeing what they look for in talented horses, and travelling the world as well, getting to be assistant to people in California and Jeremy Cedar and Newmarket.
And you've travelled. You were at you got a degree at the Royal Agricultural College, and then you did your fair bit of travelling as well before you both gravitated to Lambourne.
Yeah, I was a bit of a gypsy when I was younger. I sort of left school and I wasn't 100% sure what to do with my life. I've always been a very competitive person, loved sport, and I went down to Australia and I ended up working with horses. I'd ridden a bit as a kid, but and that really sort of ignited something in me that I really wanted to spend my time. I loved the challenge of this wasn't racehorses, but just it was working a lot with young horses and developing them and understanding them and working with them. And it's just such a it's a very special thing when you work with a horse and you teach it new things, and that partnership that you form together with the horse and developing it and coming along. And the person I was working for, he said to me, he'd trained a bit when he was younger, and he'd said, like, you know, the only real sort of profession within the horse world where you can basically start with not very much and actually make something out of yourself is in horse racing. So I came back here, did the training at the Northern Racing College, as it was then, did that, went and worked in a yard, and then thought, well, I need to get some, you know, more in-depth education, understand how to run businesses and understand the science behind the horse, really. So I did a degree at Cirencester, which was brilliant. It gave me the foundational knowledge of businesses and equine science and things, and also I could spend a lot of time riding out for local trainers and, you know, still working with horses every day. So I was able to pay my way through university by riding out, which was helpful. And then I went and worked for various different trainers all over the world, and, you know, just always with this passion to train. And I think once I kind of understood what a racehorse trainer was properly, you know, having looked into it a bit, and I read Martin Pipe's autobiography, and I was just hooked, and I was like, this is brilliant. Like, you know, there's so much to it, and working with horses is fantastic, but also the competitiveness and solving each little puzzle, analysing the horse, understanding it, how do we get this horse to perform to its best. And it's just, you know, I've been very lucky. I've worked for some really good people, and I've learned a lot of things, and at some point you sort of think, you know, I'd like to be the one making the final decision. So eventually Claire and I decided that we'd go out and do it on our own.
Were horses a part of your childhood?
Only a little bit, really. So my family originally is from Switzerland, and we used to go there in the summers, you know, and they're sort of originally family farms, and we'd go and mess around with the horses there. And so I always loved it, but, you know, where I grew up in, you know, my parents don't have anything to do with horses, but it was something I always wanted to do. So when I finished school and I wasn't quite sure what to do, and I did a few odd jobs to save a load of money and went to Australia, and I sort of fell into it a little bit. But that opportunity to start working with horses, then that was me away, you know, like.
Okay, and Claire, you were steeped in horses. There's a joke. Your parents' stud farm bred Reverence.
Yeah, I was really lucky. Mum and Dad, they got into it as a hobby, and the first horse they leased, and he was a jumper and won 15 races. So I think as a family we were all hooked after that, but they went more into the flat. And yeah, growing up I was always surrounded by them, looking after them, rehabilitating any ones that have come home, and breaking them in, getting them first ridden. So yeah, it was kind of definitely in my blood.
So what was it always the end? It was always the end game, even though you did do all the academic stuff.
Yeah, I think when I was less than 10, I wanted to be a jump jockey, and I soon realised I didn't have the nerves to be a jump jockey. So after that, yeah, since 12 years old, pretty much, I remember going, I want to be a racehorse trainer. So it was how to get to that point. Yeah.
And so you've built this yard from scratch. I'm told that you got a special somebody in to design it. I mean, where did you get what specifications did you sort of come up with, and where did you get them from?
Over the years working for other people, you always pick up lots of good ideas as to how you do things. You see facilities that you'd want to copy. Looking after flat horses, a lot of them are so young, and it's just like children, you know, they'll pick up a bug so easily. So one of the most important things that we have to overcome is keeping them healthy. So that was a big part of our design process, was looking into the airflow. Part of the yard is actually built into a hillside, so it's really important that that was designed to allow top airflow, and also just for the horse's welfare in terms of having lots to look at, you know, and some of them have got half and half partitions so they can have a friend. Lovely big stables, lighting. Dan did a lot of research into that. There's actually research from Japan, isn't there, about how actual lighting can help the horse grow faster and stronger. So it's always looking for different ideas, whether it's from past experiences. So Alan Crichton, he did all the airflow calculations for us. or even just research that's out there in Australia, Japan. They're very forward thinking.
So would you sort of class this as state of the art at the moment?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it's phenomenal. We're very lucky to have been able to do what we did. My family are construction by background, so obviously we were tapped into their knowledge. My brother came down to help for a week and a half. He stayed here for like a year and a half, and he lives in the Lake District. So we were incredibly lucky to have that knowledge and support. You know, he's a civil engineer. He got behind all the machines, dug all the trenches, but knew all the terminology. You know, as racehorse trainers, we know racing terminology. We don't know building control terminology. So we got up to speed. Really good challenge. Glad we did it. We were a bit naive on day one, but yeah, it's been a really good result, and it's now starting to reap the rewards of having a facility of this standard.
And I'm told that you put as much emphasis on a good and happy team of people working for you as you do the horses. You only sort of, I assume everybody would do that, or would you go that extra yard?
I think, look, really simply, it's a bit cheesy, but if you've got happy people, you've got happy horses. And the whole thing, I think, within, all businesses, how you look after the people who, you work with every day is really important. And how that all works is something that maybe historically racing has had a bit of catching up to do in places. And certainly, there's still things where it's quite different to a lot of other industries, but if you've got happy people around you and you've got people who are fulfilled by doing their work and their job, that reflects into the horses. And it's not always easy, but I think I'm a sort of natural researcher. I always want to find out about things, and that sort of plays out in the science that we've been talking about and the sort of designs for the horses, but also how can we create a really enthusiastic team, and how do we constantly keep upskilling the team and developing them? The better your riders are, that can only help your horses. All those things. I suppose it's the sort of Dave Brails for the British cycling team sort of thing of marginal gains. Every little bit thing you can do helps the results on the track.
And that's one of the things that you insist on: top quality work riders.
Yeah.
Yeah, and ultimately, if you come in young and enthusiastic, we've got exceptional work riders that can coach people to bring them into that high standard. I mean, we're developing a real work rider development pathway, really, aren't we, with the training that they're getting, and just seeing the improvement in those less experienced riders. It's phenomenal to watch. And people are so dedicated, especially when we work with racehorses. One, we're very fortunate to be doing that. And two, we're also competitive, like super competitive. Even anyone who's quiet. I think that's why you come into racing. And everyone wants to do the best by the horses. So when you say this is a challenge, you could change this, or improve your core doing this exercise, they want to do it because they want to be better riders. They want to get the best for their horse that they look after so that it can achieve its best on the track. And they're the team that are on the ground. They know what's going on. They come to us. It's real. We want it to be an open door policy. We try and have team meetings and make it an open forum for them to give us ideas and say, have you thought about this? Or have you thought about that? Or could we try this? And you get amazing ideas listening to your team.
I think it's that working as a team and that feedback from the team about what can we do better. Some of the best ideas come from them, and it's not just riders. It's we've got people who don't ride, but they're incredibly important, and everything from mucking out a stable. I mean, it sounds sort of quite basic, but that's where health starts. A clean stable is a healthy stable, and it's really important those people care a lot about their job. So bringing all of that together to get our team really bought into getting the results on the track, and everyone matters and everyone's important, and all the little treatments they do on the horses, and the love and the care that hopefully reflects in the results.